Okay, so now that we've talked about the different evidence, either that distance learning is useful and good or that distance learning is more difficult, we need to think about the words that would convince our audience. And there's different words that you would use for students compared to parents or school officials. So when we're talking about students, what are some of the words, if you're talking to another student, what would they relate to? They would probably relate to things like talking about the amount of free time. I think that for students, what other words would intrigue them, would communicate more with students? Do you know what? I'm going to skip on students for a minute, and I'm going to skip over to parents. I think parents, they want to know about things like responsibility, parents want to know about things like ease of use. How hard is it to do things? So do you know what ease of use would be for parents, but how hard is it to do things? That could go over to students. And these things right here, responsibility and ease of use, those are things that school officials would also be interested in. If we wanted to look, let's see, some other words might be for school officials. They might be concerned about everyone having devices and connection. Parents might use words like Chromebooks, laptop. School officials are worried about things like standards. This would be what students are supposed to learn during the year. Where parents and students, they're probably more worried about grades. And did you guys know that school officials are probably more concerned about, did you learn about all of the different topics you're supposed to learn, where your focus is more on how did you do on those topics. So there's a little bit of a shift there, focusing on what is being taught in comparison to how did you do with what is being taught. So that would be a shift that you might not be aware of because you're students and not school officials. So these are some different words and phrases that we could use that are specific to our audiences. I'm going to take out some of the extra space I have down the bottom, and then these will be shared with you. One extra note. You don't need to stop here. If you have other words that you think, do you know what, this would be important to me as a student, or this is something that I know my parents are worried about, add those words in, add that vocabulary in. Don't just stop with my example. Use it as a launching pad to get you even further.